Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It's our next episode on our webinar series, a series where we take common challenges, themes, topics, ideas we hear across thousands of our event planner customers around the world. We bring on industry experts to hopefully shed some light, their point of views, perspectives, solutions, ideas around this. For today's episode, I'm really excited because this is all about AI, but a different take on AI. So it's not necessarily what we keep hearing, that it's all high level and it could be taking over jobs and industries and all the scary stuff. Today, we really want to cut through the noise, and a title that I'm really excited to talk about is looking the AI in event technology in 2026, but differentiating the hype from the real value. Part of what I'm really excited for today is that we've probably got three of the best industry experts to talk about it, each from varying backgrounds, but all have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to both event and event technology. And I think we'll have a lot of really great insights for today. So without further ado, I might jump straight into it and introduce who we've got on the panel here. So I'm going to jump across to maybe Cam first. I'm going to pick on you. Would you mind maybe give a quick intro to yourself? I guess your role, where you work, and your involvement in the event technology space.
Yeah, happy to. So I'm Cam MacIntosh. I work at Google, specifically in the Google Cloud marketing team. I am responsible for AI adoption enablement and event technology across that. I have been at Google coming up 13 years, and have been working across the event technology and enablement space for the majority of that time.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I'm going to go to the next person on my screen and jump across to Brandon. If you want to maybe give a quick intro to yourself too.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Brandon Wernli here, CEO of BW Events Tech. Our role in the industry is to look over from an agnostic standpoint the event tech stack of our clients and prospective clients, and to give consultation, offer some architectural recommendations, and also help support, build, customize, up-level the whole nine yards. And so in short, our goal is if there are AI tools or otherwise that are out there that might fit the needs of our customers, we try to assess that, get a pulse of what's real and what's not, and how do we then take it towards implementation as well. So
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And last but not least, we'll go to Mehdi. Give us a quick intro to yourself, Mehdi.
Yeah, sure, folks. Mehdi Khalili, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at EventsAir. Compared to Cam and Brandon, I'm fairly new to the event industry, 2.5 years, and that's when I've been with EventsAir. I'm a technologist. I've been in the technology industry for 25 years, and I'm very passionate, if you will, even obsessed with AI. But at the same time, I look at AI like any other technology. It's just a means to an end. And I think about how AI could help our customers, where it can help our customers, and how it can. And sometimes it can, and sometimes it can't. So trying to kind of delineate what's real, kind of cut through the hype as well for our customers.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to go straight to the first question because I'm interested to hear this from everyone. But I guess if we set the scene before we get too much into the detail, how do we sort of see AI being adopted today? Obviously, with the focus on event technology. And I might jump to you first, Brandon. You work across a bunch of different sort of industries and organizations. How do you see most people using AI in events, I guess, in 2025?
I wish there were an extensive amount of adoption, but there are some things that have been uncovered and have been working. Some of those things include, from an attendee standpoint, uh, personalized journeys, where, based on data that is provided both from the attendee and various CRMs, how do you help guide the attendee to the best possible outcome so that it makes it as easy as possible to find the activities, the sessions, the sponsors, exhibitors, and so forth. And so there's a lot of layers and strategy behind that. Other things from the administrator side who are building the events, it's how do I create, let's say, something like a website where I can tell AI, hey, look at this website and that and this one that we've built. It communicates our brand quite well. We need this to be created for a particular audience. that showcases this leaning towards our products. Can you produce a website or a site or a landing page that might correspond to all these things? And then being able to tweak it from there. And so those foundational elements are starting to come out. Others have to do with editing of content or creation of content. A lot of administrators are spending hours and hours trying to create the appropriate content for a particular session or a keynote or just even on any web page that's being powered. And the ability to say, okay, here's my audience. What do I need to keep in mind? Let's consider accessibility. Let's consider, a variety of different things, is to have that head start and then to be able to put that human element on top of that. It's creating some efficiencies as a result. So those are just a few things that I'm seeing that have been playing out. Some with more success than others, but it's working so far.
Fantastic. So more the personalization side of things and really cutting it to each individual attendee.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I might actually ask the same question to you too, Cam. I know we've spoken briefly about this in the past, and you had some really interesting insights about AI as it is today.
Yeah. Look, I would agree a lot with what Brandon said. I think personalization is a very powerful thing across the suite of how AI is changing the nature and the way that we work in all different areas, not just literally event experiences or those types of things. But I think the real power of AI comes about connecting data. And when you're trying to design those experiences, it's connecting data from various sources, and events are data rich, right? They're extremely rich. They're about from a registration point of view to people nominating what they're interested in, why they're coming. You connect it with what you know about them as an industry. Say it might be in the finance industry or healthcare. There's now specific trends and data that you can seek from public data sets on those, connected up with their interests, connected up with then what your content is. And that's driving that connection where AI can rapidly do this to really drive that personalized experience, which creates value. And value is what everybody's trying to get to when they're coming to these events. We know for ourselves, when we look at why people come to events, it's networking, it's the content, it's to connect with colleagues and industry folks. And surprisingly enough, it's also job hunting within that area and stuff as well is one of the primary reasons. So when you know all of those different signals and stuff, it can be a tedious process to connect all of those. Whereas AI can help you sort of like agentify that type of experience and really drive quick and insightful personalization to it. I think the other thing, Brandon slightly touched on this as well, when you look about content and freeform content and stuff, Google's pretty big in this space at the moment of real-time translation. So localization and translation of content now opens you up to new audiences across the world instantaneously. Previously, everybody in the event industry remember like burn-on captions and how long that takes and the cost with audiences and transcribing and the technology to actually do it in a region, having people with headsets and the delay and all that awkwardness can now sort of be instantaneously removed and you can reach audiences much faster. That's all being powered by this massive revolution and evolution of technology in that space. And I think that helps with what all companies are trying to do is speed to market, right? So they're trying to capitalize on the opportunity right now to connect those things up, to be able to reach their customers, to enable their sales teams to be able to connect to their product and use them. So I think it's a combination of how those things are used, which really sort of brings it back together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
Alex, I would say, just tapping on to some things that Cam was saying about the data and the personalization, he's absolutely right. If you know and can assimilate all the data points that you have, you could hypothetically and realistically pull together the satisfaction scores from the attendees, and then from there back into the idea of what journeys ended up creating the optimal satisfaction for our customers. And can I send my customers or my attendees through similar journeys? And therefore, as a result, they feel like they're getting more value out of the event. They may, in fact, be more inclined to invest more. That same concept could be leveraged for sponsors and exhibitors.
Mm.
So if you backtrack that and say, okay, how did you do? Did you have the ROI? Are you securing the type of leads, the hot leads, the ones that are producing the sales? Let's also work back. How did they reach your booth? What were they doing beforehand? What kind of content were they consuming? And so as a result, an event owner or administrator can say, okay, if I can prove that AI can send people through the right journeys to cause an exhibitor to get more ROI, I could, because there's more value, charge more for these things and pull in more revenue for the overall event as a result. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of layers to that AI has the potential, with very careful, thoughtful consideration, accomplish as a result.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Alex, I'll add one other thing onto that with what Brandon was saying. I think that's really important because when you think about an event in its entirety, Brandon's mentioning things there about sort of like your post-event nurture flow, and then you're creating ROI back to your sponsors and those things. Perfectly situated. The other thing that I think, if you want for your sort of like audience out there watching this, is you should be thinking about the pre-event value that you can create. So when you can start to predict for your sponsors and stuff about what is the propensity to buy from certain audiences and who they are, start to give predictive scores and stuff. You have so much data now that you can tap into, that you can start to actually prove some of that value before somebody's walked in the door. Now that really sets you apart when you're starting to think about profiling your audiences and stuff, and attributing that value, because you're helping your sponsors and you're helping your exhibitors and stuff now maybe adjust their plans and stuff to the really honing in to provide that value when people rock up to that. And I think that's where we're going to see AI really come to the forefront of delivering value.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's if you can get the right sponsorship going, it's all an ecosystem. They thrive, and the attendees thrive, and the planners thrive. So, no, that's great. The next question I had, and I'm going to put this back to Mehdi, is I know Mehdi's done a lot of really awesome work recently. I know he takes a lot of passion in talking to our customers and looking at the fundamentals. I know, like, the idea of first principles, and I'm also very passionate about. Before we know, I think each of you have mentioned that AI is a technology, and it's a what and the why behind it, and trying to find what are the driving factors, or why are people doing this, both from personally from the actual planners themselves, and then also looking at what is sort of causing this need to look at AI into the future. So I guess the question to you, Mehdi, is I guess what is the underlying drivers, or what do you see the reasons why people are either looking at AI or not looking at AI at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, I did a lot of research around this. This started with AI, but then I put AI aside and kind of looked at the industry forces to see, put AI aside, that's just a means. What are the actual industry forces which are putting a lot of stress on planners? There are quite a few in there, but the one that I want to kind of dig into a little bit is this concept that the expectation is growing right across the board. When you think about an event, kind of does two things, an event. One part of it is revenue generation, kind of return on investment, which is expected of planners. And the other one is events are about connections and about meeting other people. Just part of it is content, but people actually go to events to meet other people and networking and so on and so forth. And the expectations increasing across both of these angles around return on investment. A lot of event planners are now expected to deliver revenue long after the event's actually finished. So it's not just a ticket sales. We sold the ticket, and that's the revenue expectation for the event. And there is expectation around recurring or reoccurring revenue for that event long after the event's gone. And on the kind of the connection side of things, it's about how do sponsors get more value out of that event again, long after the event's gone. So uh, attendees want to meet attendees. There are metrics being used such as NPS or member growth or member retention around kind of what's the impact of that event on attendees and member base. but also sponsors want to see that, like, what is my return on my sponsorship, and I don't want that to end at the time of event. And when I look at these two, kind of Brandon and Cam you touched on some really good stuff in there. We talked about kind of what AI can do before the event starts. There is a lot that AI can do after the event ends. Brandon, you touched on kind of personalization for attendees. One thing that I see not a lot of is you attended the event, you attended these sessions based on what we know about you as an attendee. As part of your registration and what you've done in the past, we think you would really enjoy these other sessions. And here's a recording of these other sessions. Then that engages the attendees long after they're gone. Or maybe they weren't even attendee. You have contacts in your CRM and you can outreach to those contacts and say, we just ran this session. Here is the content. You can find it on this portal, content portal. And maybe some of that content is available for free, and that allows you to engage your audience long after the event's gone. And maybe some of it is behind a paywall, and that allows you to generate revenue again beyond the point of ticket sales. And the same goes for kind of membership growth, that Cam, you touched on AI for translation. While you run the session in one language, you can actually reach out to many, many more people. If you know who they are, you know which language they're speaking, just change actually the translation. It doesn't even have to be the subtitle. There are AI engines now that do kind of lip sync, actually changes the voice as if I'm speaking in a different language, and that's a possibility as well. A lot of opportunity in that space.
Absolutely. I was going to say we can maybe use this webinar and do that same technology and start broadcasting it to all our attendees around the world. That's great. There was one maybe off the back of that too, and I'm really curious to ask this question. I think apart from my own sort of discussions with a lot of event planners and the reason for having this session with you all, there was an interesting study. I think it was by MIT. I don't think there's a university, MIT Media Lab Co., which can be a bit misleading. But they did a heap of interviews and research into a lot of corporations. I believe it was US based. And they found that when they interviewed a lot of the leaders and they looked at recording ROIs of the investments of this AI in operations, they found, like, I guess looking at the corporate world, it was about 95% of the AI investments had failed. Now, I've studied stats for a while. I know sometimes they can be misleading. I was curious to see, and maybe I'll point that back to Cam for that one. I guess, is that statement, is that believable? And if so, what's your thoughts on that? Is that sort of maybe misleading in certain ways?
I think it's a tough one. I think without knowing what the projects are, what their applications, what the technology is, I think it's sometimes dangerous to just look at a stat in isolation like this without sort of understanding. I think one of the things to more focus on is that still think a lot of companies, depending on where you are, technology companies by nature are probably sort of like the early adopters, builders of the technology, so they're going to be a little bit further ahead. You've got that middle bulge in the adoption curve stuff, which is the main majority there, and then your laggards and stuff like that. I think if you look across these around, just singly pointing out AI investment has failed, I'm not sure if I agree with that personally here, because I think the upfront part of it is about experimentation. And learning and understanding how this new technology works, and then working out ways to do it. Experimentation is I think, a really undervalued part of the adoption journey that people need to go on. That being said, you have to experiment in a safe way. So creating guardrails, creating compliance, creating basically like a governance policy and stuff around how to enable your people to safely experiment with it. And there is so much public data available. Use public data to experiment, right? Don't put any of your company confidential or need to know information in there until you have worked with your IT teams or providers and stuff to really make sure that your instance with your provider is locked down, does meet your protocols, does meet your compliance and those things. But then encourage experimentation. I think there has to be some level of consumption to do that. But I think that there's a lot of misconception out there around this sort of like AI investment has failed. We continue to see massive adoption of AI across businesses that have actually taken the time to think through how they're going to change the way they've traditionally worked. And I think that that's the key part of it, as opposed to, I'm using it just to make a funny picture or something like that, but it doesn't return value on me. I think that's the fun creative part. I still truly believe at the core that AI is here to augment human creativity, capability, and capacity. And it's all of those three together. I think that it has the ability to help us move faster, gain greater insights, and augment what we do every day as experts in any one of our given fields. And if you truly take it on those types of things, we're seeing tremendous time saving and reinvestment into work. I survey our global marketing team and teams beyond that, and we're seeing a significant time saving, and even up to a ratio of 2.5 times the time saving of everybody else when managers adopt AI and are actually demonstrating use of it across to their team. So when people talk about AI investment as failing, I think you've got two parts to think about. Experimentation is important. Secondly, have that governance, have that, and give your teams permission to use it the right way, and then model that use so that they feel confident to do it, and then they can start doing it, because you've hired great people. They've got incredible experience out there. You're all experts at what you do in your given field. This can then just sort of like turbocharge that and add that extra layer that can make what you do stand out even more. And I think that's where we're missing the gap of just saying one stat doesn't really tell the picture of what's going on underneath.
Awesome. That's a great answer. I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned that too. I think the first thing I thought is that as well, of, the adoption curve, and then also looking at the hype curve, any new technology, and we've had tons of them the last 10, 15 years. And I think it's definitely undervalued the experimentation. So looking at, and I'm glad you brought up the industry experts too. So taking each person in their field, they know what they need to do. And then not being afraid. I know it sounds good in theory, sometimes financially it can be a bit scary, but having that ability to test stuff, because unless you test it and break things and try to figure it out within reason, you're never really going to know what the value is, or you risk being very late to the curve as well. So yeah, that's a great answer. Cam, did you have any thoughts on that as well? Sorry, excuse me. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to say I think Cam is really wise in how he's looking at it, because you can iteratively create a lot over time and really be a pioneer in the experience by just putting yourself out there and taking a chance. I began to, as I was thinking about the question and those statistics, and I asked myself, okay, so within those that I might consider, I don't know, a flop, what caused it? And really, it just came down to, I have seen within events moments where maybe the event professionals had some sort of executive level mandate where we need to implement AI.
Mhm.
And there wasn't much thought outside of just saying, okay, we need to check that box, maybe for perception reasons, but does anybody have any ideas on how we can implement AI and just make it happen?
Mhm.
And so there's some deployment that didn't really mean a whole lot, but it had some sort of AI flavor to it. They checked the box, they moved on, they reported to their executive, and great, we won. We did it. I think it goes back to what we were suggesting before. Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
What is the strategy? What are our KPIs? What are we trying to achieve? If it's workforce efficiency, fantastic. Now you've got, let's put a KPI to it. Now let's track success. Where there perhaps is a lack of success is when there's no goal in mind and we don't know how to measure that we moved any needle, because there wasn't a needle there in the first place to look at. And so that's a common behavioral pattern. And so it starts with, what is our goal? What are the KPIs behind the goal? Can we create an experience that can drive the needle? And can we create some metrics that confirm that we've moved the needle? And hey, if we're not sure, if we're a little bit nervous that the AI is going to do the job or not, as Cam suggested, give it a try, pilot this, do it in a safe environment, and make some progress. Don't be afraid of it.
Mm.
Let's start making some progress in the iterative kind of approach, so to speak.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's actually a good point. Brought up the in the safe environment. I think I'll direct this question to you, Mehdi. But I guess what would you see as being the biggest misconception at the moment about people adopting AI in their events? I know there is obviously privacy and security, and as a quick glimpse, the survey we're doing at the moment with 300 different event planners, I think it was about 40 to 45% of them said that's a major barrier, that they're not willing to go do anything there for privacy and security, particularly for people like associations who have membership data and they're bound to certain rules and want to protect that as well. I guess, yeah, do you see, is there a resistance, I guess, or what the misconception is with getting into it? Is that a real concern? Is there things people should be aware of before they dive into that end?
And privacy and security are very critical. Yeah, everybody should take that into account and make sure that we design the systems around that as first class citizen, whether it's AI or not. Probably a bit more important when it comes to AI because there are a lot of considerations that didn't exist before the era of AI. There are safety measures that you need to take into account. There could be elements of toxicity that AI introduces into interaction. And there are AI builders and model labs take a lot of that into account. But if you want to use AI in a proper manner and make sure that you don't cause any damage, you need to be very mindful of that and have guardrails in place to protect yourselves and your customers against that. So that's very real, perhaps more real when it comes to AI. So I appreciate people keeping that in mind that that's a thing. But I guess what's happening is that people, a lot of people that I interact with, whether it's event planners or otherwise, just don't go near AI. There is a little bit of a, I think if I had to boil it down, it's fear. It's whether it's the fear of privacy and security or it's the fear of, oh my God, AI is going to take over kind of my life and or my job, and I'm not going to go near it and just pretend that it doesn't exist.
Mm,
Um, and the other part of this is lack of expertise and awareness of what AI can actually do. In the research that we ran, some people say that they don't believe that it could add value to them. And some folks say that I don't know how to use AI. And I think these two are probably the variations of the same thing that people don't know what AI can do, and as a result, don't know whether it's going to add value to them or not. Um,
absolutely.
what I
Yeah.
would say though is part of it is people learning about AI and getting
Mm,
comfortable with it and kind of not kind of stepping away from it. It's no longer a nice to have. We all need to get comfortable with it. And maybe at this point, it's a bit of a end of the honeymoon period of you used AI and you were more productive and more efficient, but we're kind of the end of that period and it's no longer nice to have. And it's a competitive edge now. If you don't use AI, you're going to fall behind.
mm, absolutely. So, Brandon, did you have something you want to?
Yeah, I almost interjected too soon. I had an experience where this played out where the concern was, hey, we've got investment. We want to do an AI deployment. It was on the subject of personalization, and then the cold feet, the concerns started coming into play. We vetted, the platforms that were being used, and so that foundation is really important. But part of the personalization experience was is there needed to be an opt-in for the attendees to say, yeah, I'm in on this. And the
Mm,
concern was is they were concerned that the attendees weren't going to feel comfortable with their data being used for AI purposes. And
mm,
so what's going to happen to the investment if we don't get enough people, right? So that was the challenge. What we observed is by putting it out there still and getting people used to the AI deployment, but also educating them and finding clever ways to say, hey, you could experience this, and here's the benefit if you do, but you just need to
mm,
click this button and opt in, and it opens up these opportunities to you. And so little by little, the opt-in rates were growing and growing, and then people were experiencing it, telling their friends, saying, go into the app, go to this location. We made it very simple for people to opt in again. They did, and the opt-in rate went right through the roof. And The ROI was there as a result, but we had to go through an experience of education, trying to give them some reason why does it benefit me?
Mhm.
And putting it in front of them and making it easy for them to opt in at that point. That's when the ROI started to happen.
I think
Awesome.
I'll
Love that.
second that, Brandon. You touched on two things that are very important. One of them is, how do you take the pain out of the adoption? Like, we
Hmm.
don't expect event planners to be professional software developers for them to use event tech. We don't expect event planners to, I write code 8 hours a day, and as a result, I'm qualified to kind of use an event tech platform. That's not how it works. Software developers build solutions which take the pain out of technology, just focus on the technology is there. You need to be able to know how to use this technology, and that's the user experience. And the same is true to some extent for AI, that it's on event tech providers to package this up in a way that solves real problems, and it's seamless and in the process and very accessible for whether it's planners or attendees, that I don't need to know AI or be an expert in AI. I just need to know how to leverage this
Mhm.
and see the impact of it. And I think it's kind of part of it is on event planners, kind of learning more about AI. Part of it is on event tech providers to make sure that we package this up in a very easily accessible manner for our end users.
We did something working with Cam actually, where I felt like it was very smart because there was an audience of people that we selected and said, look, we're doing a pilot and we just need some feedback on how easy this is. And if you would be as candid as you can, please let us know how this is going. And so this allowed us to do a safe environment. We got candid feedback, but it wasn't candid to the point of, I'm going to burn the whole thing down. And I'm telling everyone, I feel like you feel that my opinion is important, and I am a special person. I'm getting special insight.
Yeah.
And now, because of that, I'm going to give you as much intel as possible. In fact, if I can solution with you, I'll do it. And it was perfect because we want the feedback without people hearing that this was a bust.
Mhm.
And we got exactly what we wanted. And it was perfect.
Yeah.
Love that. That's fantastic. And I was going to say, even hearing that from their peers as well, it's always so sometimes can be hear from a technological expert to be like, you should be doing these things. It's like, well, you're not one of us, and but to hear some of their peers actually go through it, I think that's really powerful as well. And it's funny to say that. I've got the stats up on my screen there too from the survey we're doing. I think it was over 61% ish ended it saying that they're not adopting AI or not adopting further AI because of a lack of knowledge and expertise. And they were saying that both from a personal perspective and technical how it works, but then also they're nervous about how far they should go, what they should do in terms of privacy and what else is on show as well. So that's very in line with sort of what everyone was saying. Um, I was going to jump to the next one, and this is probably looking at sort of real tangible applications, and within reason, we want to make sure we respect the privacy and security of some organizations. But is there any sort of real applications or things we can sort of paint a picture of that people are using AI with today? I know. I think Mehdi, Cam, and myself, we went off on a tangent a couple months ago and went down the rabbit hole on this, which was a lot of fun. But I think there was, some ideas, for example, around huge corporate event that did personalized agendas. And I think Brandon touched on this in the beginning as well too. It was when they were signing up and registering for the event, it picked up on what they were interested in and used sort of free text fields to say, what do you want to hear or why are you coming to this event? And could take this enormous agenda and trim it right down to like, here are the 5 things I think you should go see. And it was sort of somewhat simple, but use AI in the back of that to really give that attendee experience. That's just one that stands out to me pretty prominently, I think, that I've heard in the last couple of months. But I'll ask you, Cam, is there any sort of things you're seeing now or things people are working on at the moment that is pretty exciting in the AI event space?
I think everybody's working on something, to the point before of like, I don't want it to be the tick box thing that Brandon mentioned, which is very true. I think there's a lot of innovation happening. I think people are slowly getting more accustomed to it. I think that's going to naturally evolve because people are going to start just sort of like doing it in their day to day. I think it boils down to, what are you trying to achieve by doing your event? Like, what is the purpose of running that event? And then if you start with that and work backwards from there, I think you start to identify pretty quickly the goals are most of the time about reach. How do I reach new audiences? How do I tap new experiences? How do I create, as I said before, value for the people that are going to come? And remember that, like, it's much easier to attend a digital webinar and watch that and take away those sorts of things than giving up a week and going to a big conference somewhere and having to travel and having to leave friends and family and responsibilities and all those types of things. So that value exchange amplifies. And so the more that you can actually attribute to that and creating that value for them, you'll actually start to, I believe, start to see positive increases in like brand sentiment and the impact and everything around your actual solutions as well. When you have positive interactions and everything, you see value in those sorts of things. That's where I think it's good. But I think the actual applications stuff right now, I said it before, I think real-time translation is going to be super, super valuable, reaches those audiences. It really democratizes the event experience across it, and technology is the driving force in that. I think that there's some really cool stuff happening around like AI concierges and AI chatbots and stuff across sites that can help drive personalized experiences, and even just helping event planning teams and management teams to get rid of that sort of like level one help and just automating that so that they can really focus their time on that second level help and that more of a white glove experience for people that are having serious challenges and those things. And then I think the last area, which I think is really, Brandon could probably comment a bit more, but I think it's more cutting edge at the moment, is how do you drive real-time insights from your audiences that are right there that can engage with the presenter in real time? Mm. So how are you actually getting sort of like live sentiment analysis of how your 1 hour speech is going and where you need to pivot, and you're getting that feedback from the audience about what they're focusing on? How do you interact with them live? How do you now take what is, come and sit on a really uncomfortable conference chair and listen for an hour, as opposed to come in and get involved in this session, provide feedback, use this app while we're doing this, tell me whether we're on this, and we'll pivot and go to like really getting this down to an experience that you think, wow, I was part of that, not just present. And I think that's where we will be able to see real advancement sort of like coming in this area. And I think AI is going to do a wonderful job in sort of like augmenting the experience within these types of environments.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really cool one. I was going to say the two major ones we when we surveyed the event planners that people are using, it's communications and marketing was the number one by far, and I think that's from creation to personalization. And the second one was data analysis, so looking at I think both qualitative, quantitative post events and what worked well and what didn't work well. But I love that idea of real-time insights for the speakers as well, and arguably that could fit into the concept of sponsorship ROI. It's like got to make sure that the person's having a great event and they leave with a higher brand, or if they're an organization looking for leads, maybe some more interest on that end as well. But I think you touched on all three of them, which went unprompted, which is great. Thank you, Cam. I think it was looking at the attendee engagement, sponsorship ROI, and event planner efficiencies. Mehdi, did you have any sort of things you're hearing or things that you believe this year or looking 2026 that are some really tangible applications in the event planner phase that people should be looking at?
I think those three areas are the prime areas for AI to deliver some real impact. To me, the two kind of lower hanging fruit out of those, one of them is around hyper personalization for attendees. And the reason AI can do that effectively is that if you're running a conference with 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 people, it becomes impossible for even a team of event planners to create personalized agenda for attendee or personalized experiences for attendees. But AI can scale. Part of it is we know who you are. Some of these larger conferences, we have customers who run kind of 5-day conferences with hundreds of sessions with kind of 10 tracks in parallel. I've been to some of those conferences in the past, and weeks leading up to that conference, I'll sit down and look at the agenda, overwhelmed, trying to figure out which of these sessions I can go to get the most value out of this conference. And that shouldn't be my experience. The attendee, I've already mentioned what I'm interested in as part of the registration process. AI can actually create that hyper-personalized experience for me to say, based on your interest, these are the sessions that you need to attend. And by the way, these are the people who share the same interests. If you wanted to go and network in the event, these are the people that you may want to connect up with. So kind of how we can personalize the experience. And when the event's finished, I touched on this before, just you attended these sessions. Here's a bunch of other sessions that you didn't attend, which kind of touch on that topic as well, if you're interested to go and watch the recording afterwards. And the other one is around planner. The research that I did on the industry, one of the biggest pain points in the industry is skill shortage and not enough capacity for event planners to kind of deliver what they're expected to deliver. And AI can augment, Cam touched on it, AI can augment human and give us much better efficiency and productivity. And one opportunity, and I see kind of, we're working on something like this at EventsAir, but I also see opportunities where AI can act as an always on, never sleeps, never rest co-pilot in there along with you, can answer questions that you have and can take on some mundane tasks behind the scenes. So you don't have to kind of spend your time cat herding or kind of working through the platform or whatever the case might be. Let AI do the heavy lifting and boring things, and the event planner's job then becomes truly to design these great experiences for the attendees. So they move from kind of part-time cat herders to kind of full-time event designers and experience designers, and that AI can deliver a huge impact there.
Absolutely. Chat herders is a great saying. I think that was a very common sentiment. People were saying if they could manage the millions of correspondence that they get, especially leading up to the event, that would be a game changer for them as well. And maybe the same question back to you, Brandon, as well. Is there sort of real applications you're seeing at the moment, or even perhaps ones you're even working on? Is there anything you're sort of most excited about that's being implemented at the moment?
Yeah, we had an experience just a few weeks ago. We were working with a partner. They were demoing a AI bot, an assistant, and it went through a demo that went like this. So this is current state, and then the client asked a question that revealed future state. So the current state was, as the bot said, okay, what sessions would you like to go to, or something like that? And the attendee responded back, well, I'm interested in these few things. And so the bot responded, well, you've got space open on Tuesday and Thursday. Here are some recommendations. I'm going to go ahead and fill it for you. Go ahead and take a look. Do you like this? If not, here is a whole carousel of other content, activities, sessions, sponsors that fit that profile that you just requested. You say, I like this, this, and this. Go ahead and schedule that. But that one, can we switch? Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and switch that. Perfect. Now, by the way, I understand that you mentioned earlier that you were interested in networking. I am. We've got a few people that fit the profile of what you were looking for. Would you like to book a meeting? I would love that. Well, looking at their calendar and yours, I see that there is time on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Would you like to schedule that? I would. I'm going to go ahead and send an email to both parties. Great, please do. The client then said, after they loved what they were hearing, they said, now can the attendee then register for the event itself? Could they register for the event, and could they just have the rest of it just taken care of? And the partner said, we are working on a concept where it may transform the very idea of having a registration platform by having an AI bot that can walk them through the whole experience. And I think that's something that Cam and I have actually riffed on in the past as well. These are some of the things that can transform an industry, taking it from what we're traditionally used to, and now these assistants that may fit on our smartphone or on the event website, they're just taking us through the journey. You don't have to jump web pages. You've got the whole catalog at your fingertips at that point.
Yeah, fantastic. I was going to say this is where that changes from a, what do they say, point solution to a system change where you're going from what's always been done and then you're looking at, oh, how do we change the entire process? That's really great. So a bit of a chat, essentially a chatbot or assistant that you can go back and forth with and plan your entire experience. That's great. Um, I guess looking at this is really exciting. I could keep going on, but I'll be cautious of time. Maybe just to finish it off, looking at moving forward as we go into 2026, and then maybe with a focus on looking at a lot of the data we've seen is that many event planners are in the early stages, and I think 1 in 4 have yet to even adopt any form of AI at all. Is it, I guess, looking for 2026 and your advice for everyone of where you would focus on, or I guess those first couple of use cases. I think what's possible with AI is endless, but I think looking at step 1 and 2, what would be your advice on that? And I might throw that back to you, Mehdi, on that question. Um, I know you mentioned before education is very important, but is there anything else, I guess, you would advise some of the event planners as they enter 2026?
I have a bunch of tools I can kind of rattle them off for them to consider, whether it's kind of workflow automation with AI augmentation and whatnot. And I think all of these are valuable to consider. But I'll stay away from tools. I have a rule, personally, I have a rule. Every time I want to do something with computer, before I touch the computer, I ask myself whether AI can help me achieve that. And then I end up going down a rabbit hole of I'm going to try 2 different AI tools. And many times I fail in that quest of kind of getting AI to do what I want it to do or getting it to do as much as I want it to do. But also many times I identify AI use cases or AI applications that help me become more productive. So over time, you kind of add all of these, trying this many times a day, and maybe half of it I'm failing and half of it I'm learning something new. And the compound effect of that is, one, I know what AI is capable of and not yet quite capable of. And I'm a lot more productive as a result of it. So I think it's kind of taking that first step and not taking that first step just once. It's I sit down today, I want to do something, and I'm gonna use AI to see whether it can help me do that more effectively. And then the next thing I want to do, I do the same thing. And maybe people, it depends on where people are at in their AI maturity curve, if you will, of if they haven't used AI, they want to start with something very simple. If they are a ChatGPT user, on the way to work, just put ChatGPT on the voice mode and have a chat with it. Say, I've got this problem, I'm trying to work through this, can you help me? Or if you're a Google user, you can do the same thing with Gemini and so on and so forth. There are many platforms out there. So start kind of with something simple. Just put them on the voice mode, have a casual conversation with AI as an assistant. Walk them through the problems that you have and get them to give you responses and assistance. And maybe the next step after that is there any AI tool that could help me do this? Kind of use the same assistant to guide you through what other AI tools might exist, and kind of over time, just compound effect of I'm learning a little bit every day, and you will be ahead of 90% of the population. Fast forward by 6 months.
Fantastic. So you use AI to figure out how we should adapt AI is a great point to leave with. And maybe back to you, Cam, as well. Same sort of question. People starting out in 2026 in AI, what would be your advice to them?
I'm naturally going to be biased towards Gemini,
Fair.
but I think that's expected. Look, I think the way so many tools are evolving so rapidly as well. I think staying close to them, as I said before, safe experimentation is critical. I also think that there's a wealth of training and stuff out there. We've personally launched a series called AI Boost Bites, which are under 10 minutes per boost bite to learn. You watch a 3 to 4 minute video, you practice a skill. Now you have a new AI skill, and that's across a suite of Google's products and stuff about how you can augment this. And the beauty is that it's easier. Somebody said this the other day. It's easier to experiment with an AI tool now than it is to go and get a glass of water or something, because you can literally go to a website and bang you straight onto it. You're doing it beforehand. So the barriers to access, being able to do it, being able to experiment and do that, again, safely. Public data, don't use your customers' data. It's your most important currency. It's our most important currency. And I think that, when you think about, I really liked what Mehdi said before about I start with thinking about AI and start with that there. I'm at a point now where I kind of am reliant almost on AI to help me augment my day. I truly have set up a whole bunch of agents within Gemini Enterprise, which help me do a range of things. Google Workspace, Studio, and Flows are incredible to help you organize your inbox. And so, one example, I get a chat from Gmail every morning that says, here's your prioritized inbox and your most priority actions that you need to take. And I've also drafted some responses for you to read before you want to do it. And I can knock off the top 10 sort of things I need to by reading those drafts, making my own edits. So making sure there's that human in the loop is important, and then shoot them off. And I'm off to a great start for the day, which really helps me prioritize and get back to those other people which are reliant on me. So it really helps teams connect and do that. So I'd say experiment safely, do that, get involved, and then plus one to what Mehdi said of like, think about, could AI help me do this? And jump into a tool like Gemini and literally ask it, hey, I have this problem. How would you solve it using AI tools to help do this? And really have what we call Gemini jam sessions, where you're just sort of like jamming with the tool and spending some time in it. And when you do that, I truly believe that the possibilities are endless.
Fantastic. Gemini jam sessions. These are some really good saying. I'm gonna write all these down. And there was one, sorry, you mentioned before, those classes, the 10-minute classes, the Google Boost. Was that what was it?
Yeah, it's called AI Boost Bites. It's available on the Google Skills site. Very easy to get to. Happy to share a link and stuff as well.
That'd be great. That's a great takeaway. Thank you. And again, probably last one there, Brandon, to yourself, your advice for event planners in 2026.
Yeah, I'll just say I love what's being said about, the practical use cases of our own personal life. As I was hearing the others talk on this subject, I was thinking about my own experience. And when I downloaded or jumped into Gemini or GPT or whatever it was, I wasn't sure what I was fully getting into. I didn't know how easy it was going to be. And I was able to use it for very practical, real things. And then it blew my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. Are these the implications? Could I do this? And so that was very helpful. And I think using it in the workplace, as Cam was suggesting, very effective. I am more effective as a worker as a result. So you start planting those seeds. My suggestion would then be is, like we've been saying, what are we wanting to accomplish? Now that you know the implications, what are we trying to accomplish? What are our KPIs? And then join some sort of event tech tribe. Join a group of your peers. And if you're reluctant to jump in, all in, find out who has used various vendors or partners and what was their experience, and allow them to be candid with you. And then you iterate off of what they did, and they iterate off of what you did. And let's learn as a community together. And let's collectively figure out what partners are not worth bringing back, what are bulletproof, and let's use those that we can trust, and then share around with others around us. And let's learn together.
Love that. Fantastic. What a great way to finish that one off. I've gone over time, but that was really cool. I had a bunch of other questions, but I'm sure there'll be more to come. But I want to say thank you very much to everyone. Brandon, Cam, and Mehdi, really appreciate your time. I got a heap of little takeaways I put down on my notes. And yeah, we look forward to hearing all the feedback from the session. So thank you once again for joining us.